Howdy goons, we have a big week for Game Boy Advance emulation fans out there today. The RGSP from Ambernic dropped pre-orders today, and surprise, so did the pre-orders for the Iono Pocket Advance. We also have full details on the Pocket Advance like specs, so I'm going to go over that, but I ordered both. The RGSP for my wife and the Pocket Advance for me. I have a bunch of other handhelds, so I'll tell you which one I think you should get. First, the RGSP is Ambernic's newest iteration of the GBA-SP. It's a Linux-based H700 handheld, like a lot of their handhelds are, so if you have any of the other Linux-based handhelds like the RG34XX or the RG34XXSP, 35XXSP, Cube, all that, then there really isn't a point to getting one of these. If you have something more powerful, there also isn't a point, as it's not going to do anything your other stuff can't do. This is more about Ambernic fixing the design mistakes that were made with the RG34XXSP and the 35XXSP. Basically, to give you the short version of it, one had a 4:3 screen despite it trying to mimic the GBA-SP. This didn't really make sense. Why would you make an SP that doesn't have a perfect aspect ratio for the SP? Then they made a second one that had a 3:2 screen, but they put sticks on it. The sticks make more sense on the 4:3 screen version. The RGSP fixes the problem with a thinner body, 3:2 screen, and no sticks with a slightly adjusted screen position to give it less of a forehead. If the RG34XX was trying to mimic the GBA as close as possible, then the RGSP is their SP version of this. If you don't care about it not being Android, it's the premier GBA-SP emulation handheld. But if you have one of the prior SPs or the RG Rotate like me, then it won't do enough different for you that you should even worry about it. If you decide to get one, I still have an affiliate link in the description and in the comments, but you should just get it wherever it's cheapest or wherever it'll arrive for you fastest, like Amazon eventually. Before I tell you which one of these you should get between the RGSP and the Pocket Advance though, I have to tell you about the Pocket Advance. So the pre-order for the RGSP dropped this morning, and at the same time so did the Iono one. Iono is a company that I've been on the fence about for a while, especially after ordering from them, because they have some issues, like sending me a unit that cracked on its own. Just one day it just started getting cracks. Apparently it's a rare issue, but over time there's always someone new replying to one of my Reddit posts about it, telling me about how theirs just started cracking too. Iono support sent me a replacement shell, no questions asked, and it's been great. Next, they have a tendency to send units to third parties before the customers who pre-ordered, like sending it to AliExpress, and because of that, people are able to order their handhelds through AliExpress and get them before the people who pre-ordered them. Not great. Annoying, but there are other companies who have done this before too. I think Ambernic and Retroid have both done this. Last issue is that they've been known to be incredibly slow when producing and shipping units. The Pocket Advance pre-orders are open and handled through their site now. In the past, Iono has blamed Indiegogo for their products getting out late. I said, if Indiegogo is such a problem, then they should handle pre-orders through their website. Well, they listened. The Pocket Advance pre-orders aren't being crowdfunded, but instead being ordered through their site. This removes a middleman, and because of that, they'll send units out sooner. When I got the Pocket Air Mini, we had to wait a month for the campaign to end, then a month for manufacturing. So 2 months before they even started shipping out units. The Iono site says that units go out at the end of August. That's not as fast as Ambernic, but still faster than before. We also have the specs now. I said that what chipset they'd use would likely be going one of two ways. The first is that they'd use the Heliotech G90T from the Iono Pocket Air Mini, which many considered already to be like the original GBA. A lot of people consider the Pocket Air Mini a premier GBA handheld, despite being 4.3. This chipset makes the most sense as it's their cheapest chipset that they've used and one that they can get reliably. The Pocket Air Mini sold the most units, yes, even more than the Pocket Fits did on their pre-order, and they shipped them all out pretty quickly for Iono at least. The G90T chipset makes the most sense as it's their cheapest that's still strong enough for what it's trying to do, and it's the one that they can meet the most demand with. The alternative is that they can go for a Snapdragon, and it's overpriced and overpowered, and it would just be another Pocket Micro situation. Way more power than you'll ever use. Thankfully, they went with the smart decision and chose the G90T. This is a great chip. Low heat, powerful enough to run a good chunk of PS2, and they've shipped units with this chipset before in the past with no issue, and once Gamma OS Next comes out on it, it's going to play a majority of the PS2. Best of all, it's cheap. Without shipping, the Pocket Advance is $89 for the 3GB RAM model with 32GB internal memory, $110 for the 4GB RAM, 64GB internal model. Previously, the Pocket Air Mini had a 2GB RAM and a 3GB RAM version, and I got the 3GB RAM version to play more PS2, and it's done a decent job of that. If you want to see what the chip can do, check out my 50 games test video. I'll put it on the end card. It's mostly PS2 and GameCube. Having an additional GB of RAM would improve the performance a bit, but you 100% 100% do not need it for GBA. This is a system that can run on your wristwatch nowadays. Keep in mind that the Ambernic's Linux handhelds are running 1GB and run GBA flawlessly. So if you get the Pocket Advance, I recommend getting the cheaper one, as 3GB is enough for PS2, and you won't even play that on here because it doesn't have sticks. If you do care about getting a little more performance out of it, Gamma OS Next will likely come to it, so just wait a bit and that'll increase the performance too. Some other stuff to mention: 3.2 screen at 3.5 inches, 960 by 640p resolution, meaning that it's perfectly scaled for GBA. The resolution and size are bigger than the RGSP as well. The internal memory is 32GB and 64GB, and if you only wanted to play GBA, GBE, and GBC, you could fit every single one of those games on the internal memory of even the 32GB one. But either way, you wouldn't need a big SD card for the intended games. It has a fan, which even when playing PS2, I didn't really feel was necessary. The overall design is also just very cool. It's a little bit of a futuristic kind of like a military robot kind of design with all the grooves and vents and stuff like that. It's cool looking. But as someone mentioned, all the grooves are just begging to catch dead skin and grime. There's so many spots where you're going to just end up having to clean it. It's going to be a little bit of extra work to keep it sparkly. Plenty of buttons, not just the 4 face buttons of B, A, X, Y, but 3 sets of shoulder buttons, with the main 2 being very large. This leaves plenty of room for hotkeys. The D-pad looks like it'll likely be the same or similar to the Pocket Air Mini, which means silent, and that's my favorite D-pad, next to the disc D-pads. It also has dedicated menu buttons, and the volume wheel is an actual wheel, unlike the RG34XX. 2 speakers instead of 1 like the SP, and 34XX, but they're down-firing. Gyroscope, so you can play WarioWare Twisted and Kirby's Tilt and Tumble, but I had trouble with the Pocket Air Mini and getting it to work, so hopefully they make it work better on this one. Type-C charging, and will charge faster than the RGSP. The Linux-based handhelds will not have gyroscopes in them, so the only way that you can play WarioWare Twisted and Kirby's Tilt and Tumble right now is to get one of these ones that has a gyroscope in it. So if you really care about WarioWare Twisted and Kirby's Tilt and Tumble, this is the only way to do it. Type-C charging, and will charge faster than the RGSP. 4,000 mAh battery, and will have Android Sleep, meaning a much longer battery life, headphone jack, and Wi-Fi Bluetooth 5. If we were in a bubble and just comparing the specs, the Pocket Advance is the one to get, of course, but there are other factors. If you prefer the SP, then the Pocket Advance is going to be too chunky. It's a little bit bigger than the original GBA, which was already barely pocketable. This isn't going to be a very pocket-friendly handheld, even though it will likely have the better gameplay experience. But then there is also the issues of Iono, and there isn't a guarantee that it'll be flawless. There could be delays, cracking, and ordering through them can be like rolling dice as to what kind of flaw you'll get. I can't guarantee a perfect experience with Iono, but I will say that the Pocket Air Mini, despite its flaws, is an incredible handheld and is still one of my favorites right now. I really only use the RG Vita more than it because the RG Vita is wider and I'm playing PSP right now, and yeah, it's just a better screen for PSP. If you get it, it will be the best GBA experience available right now if you like the original GBA form factor, but it's not like you need Android and all this other stuff. If you don't care about Android features like better sleep and battery life and faster charging, multiple Wi-Fi networks that you can connect to instead of just the one, then you would be just as happy with the SP. Personally, I have an RG Rotate, and the RGSPs I got are gifts for other people after my review. I don't see a point in owning one while I have a Rotate, so I guess my recommendation is that if you like the original GBA, get the Pocket Advance. If you don't care about Android, get the RG34XX. I have a video on that. It is still a great handheld even after a few years. If you prefer the SP, get the Rotate. It's similar enough. I have a video on that as well. If you prefer Linux, then get the RGSP. But with the chipset being the same as the Pocket Air Mini, I think I can confidently say that the Pocket Advance will be the best GBA experience there is. If it's even just the RG34XX but Android, it would be the best GBA experience currently, because that handheld is pretty much flawless for a Linux handheld. That's if you're cool with dealing with Iono, and many aren't. In the end though, you can always wait for my video on it. That'll be about a month and 2 weeks from now, because they ship out at the end of the month, but it'll take 2 weeks to arrive from China. And the RGSP will probably start shipping out 2 weeks from now, which means I'll probably have it at the end of the month. I'll have a few on the RGSP because I'll be comparing it to my Shrek GBA SP. Yeah, thanks for watching, and thanks to the stinkers on YouTube who support my videos like Pupper Raw, Fabronaut, Linky, Willy Pete, and Dragon Fanatic. I'll see you all later. I had to make myself forget that I ordered both of these, otherwise time is going to go really slowly. Bye!